We all love epic adventures, deep stories, and interesting characters, which is why we love RPGs. So today I want to talk about a list of upcoming RPGs you definitely want to have on your radar. I'm Eric, so if you guys enjoyed this video, a like would be super appreciated. If you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe. But let's begin, and let's start by talking about Baldur's Gate 3. This is a game that itself is based on Dungeons & Dragons, the tabletop role-playing game system. Baldur's Gate 3 is a role-playing game that offers both single-player and cooperative multiplayer. There is actually a partial version of the game that was released in early access format for Windows, Stadia and macOS in 2020, and the game is expected to remain in early access until 2023. Players can create one or more characters and form a party along with computer-generated characters to explore the game's story. You also have the option to take one of your characters and team up online with other players to form a party. Baldur's Gate 3 is a turn-based game based on the 5th edition rules of D&D, similar to Larian's earlier games Divinity Original Sin and Original Sin 2. Then we have Diablo 4, the ARPG king. During the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, Blizzard confirmed Diablo 4 will launch in 2023 on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The game will launch with 5 classes: Necromancer, Druid, Rogue, Barbarian, and Sorceress. Crossplay and cross-progression have been confirmed, and pre-registration for the beta is currently available. They showed off the Necromancer most recently, giving you opportunities to of course go around and summon hordes of minions and basically dabble in the blood magic ways. There's also a new skill system that makes earning abilities more deep and meaningful, so we cannot wait to explore this exciting new world. Gotham Knights is an open-world action RPG touted to be set in the most dynamic and interactive Gotham City to date. It has solo or co-op options, although co-op will only allow you to explore the city in up to 2 players. The game is centered on Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Hood, all of whom are tasked with restoring justice to Gotham City during a period of decline in the immediate aftermath of Batman's death. The heroes come into conflict with the Court of Owls, a secret society that is as old as Gotham itself, and their legion brainwashed assassins called the Talons. It's being developed by WB Montreal, and of course will give us our next comic book fix. Then of course the much awaited Starfield, upcoming action RPG developed by Bethesda Game Studios, whom you will of course know for games like Fallout and Skyrim. Starfield is set in an area that extends outward from the solar system for approximately 50 light years called the Settled Systems. The player assumes the role of a customizable character, and we recently got a look at character customization, who is a member of Constellation, an organisation of space explorers. The game can either be played in first or third person perspectives. It includes base and shipbuilding, planetary exploration, resource hunting, FPS and RPG gameplay akin to that of games like Fallout, and of course it includes space combat. The game is slated to release in spring, but quite whether of course that date will hold will of course remain to be seen. Then we have Fable, another one for the list if you like your games with a large slice of humour. The Fable reboot is in the works. It was announced originally during Xbox's showcase in 2020 and is being developed by Playground Games on the Forza Tech engine. However, despite that, don't assume just because they've done cars that they don't know what they're doing. Playground are a fantastic studio, and it will definitely be exciting to see their take on Fable. Besides that, of course, information is pretty light right now. We were kind of hoping that we would get some information in the most recent Bethesda showcase, but alas, it seems we have to wait a little bit longer. Another game that was announced quite a while ago and has since been pretty quiet is AVOWED. This was first revealed also in the Xbox Game Showcase in 2020 with an ominous cinematic trailer. What we saw was brief, but it reveals a few key details. Most importantly, that AVOWED is a first-person RPG in a similar vein to the Outer Worlds, or perhaps more accurately, Skyrim. And though no gameplay was shown, the trailer does end from the perspective as the player, where they brandish a sword and trace out a magic spell in the air, charging their hand with some violent energy. There is of course an unseen enemy, presumably one that is very large, made of flames, that approaches. Not much else has been revealed, but the narrator in the trailer does place specific emphasis on oaths, which seems like it'll be a central theme in the story. Clever players in the AVOWED subreddit have however deciphered the runes etched on the sword on the trailer, realising that it's a language that already exists in Pillars of Eternity. To discover the sword's name is Oathbinder. Then following on from there we have Dragon Age 4. This again is an upcoming role-playing game from BioWare that is being published by Electronic Arts. It's the 4th major game in the Dragon Age franchise and it's titled DREADWOLF. This will be the sequel to Dragon Age Inquisition from 2014. All we have in the game right now is the Solus, the Dreadwolf. Some say that he may be an ancient elven god, but some say not. Others say a betrayer betrayer of his people or a savior who now seeks to rescue them at the cost of your world. His motives are inscrutable and his methods sometimes questionable, earning him a reputation as something of a trickster deity, a player of dark and dangerous games. While the game won't be releasing this year, we're growing closer to that next adventure, so rest assured, Solus is placing his pieces on the board as we speak. Of course, we couldn't do a list on RPGs without mentioning The Elder Scrolls 6. Unfortunately, we know literally nothing about this game. When this was first announced, we got little more than a title screen. It of course is a sequel to Skyrim, which is more than 10 years old now and has had countless remakes, remasters. Honestly, I have lost count of how many times they have re-released Skyrim, and this game of course will not be coming before Starfield or likely FABLE, so we're gonna have to wait for quite some time. Possible locations do include things like High Rock or Hammerfall, but ultimately I think we're going to have to wait a few years before we see more on this game. We then have Midnight Suns, a new tactical RPG, one for the comic book fans out there, and developed by strategy game kings Firaxis. It's set in the Marvel Universe, but leans more towards the spooky side of the history. The game features a turn-based combat system where 3 superheroes use a card deck for each turn, which consists of a curated deck designed by the player. Unlike XCOM, where the game wants you to feel the harrowing side of surviving an alien invasion, Midnight Suns embellishes the superhero fantasy, moves will rarely miss many enemies, and can offer one-shot specials and are incredibly flashy. What of course adds the wrinkle to combat is that generally, at the end of each turn, new enemies appear, creating an interesting dynamic where you are searching for the most efficient method of taking out enemy units in order to not be overrun by additional waves. Additionally, also unlike XCOM, the game is not played on a grid, but rather features full 3D movement, akin to that of the Divinity series. Next on the list is Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Yes, Mario & Rabbids is an RPG. Don't argue with us. Sequel to the original on Switch, which was a fantastic game by the way. If you didn't play it, you need to check it out. The gameplay of Sparks of Hope is largely similar to that of Kingdom Battle. Players are able to build their roster of characters from an available 9, of which include Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, Rabbid Luigi, Rabbid Mario, and others such as the newcomer Rabbid Rosalina. Players are also tasked with rescuing sparks throughout the galaxy who provide distinct powers that will help the player in battle. However, unlike the first game, level designs are less linear, and the turn-based tactical combat features a new system that disregards the first game's grid-based layout. This new combat system has been compared to that of games again like Divinity Original Sin. Also featured are enemy encounters outside of the turn-based combat, which of course is completely different from what they had in the past. Outer Worlds is next on the list. This of course is a new star system, new crew, but the same Outer Worlds. This is another title where there isn't much to go on, but it does confirm a new setting with new characters. At this point it's too early to tell where the game will take place, but we can hope for a nice change of scenery. Much like Fallout, you can choose how to respond to certain characters, which could lead to various branching paths in the story. In the previous game, the deep level of customization, not just with your gear but also with your attributes and skills, made for an engrossing experience that definitely scratched that Western RPG itch. So it should go without saying that in the Outer Worlds 2, we'd like to see an expansion on that with even more customization to allow for plenty of experimentation. Then next up, technically speaking, we have 3. Cheeky one here, the Shadowrun trilogy. This, surprise surprise, is comprised of the 3 cult tactical RPG games taking place in a dystopian cyberpunk future in which magic has reawakened, bringing back to life creatures of high fantasy. Initially created as a tabletop RPG over 30 years ago, this one-of-a-kind setting has gained a huge cult following during the past 3 decades. In the urban sprawl of the Seattle Metroplex, the search for a mysterious killer sets you on a trail that leads from the darkest slums to the city's most powerful megacorps. You'll need to tread carefully, enlist the aid of other runners, and master powerful forces of technology and magic in order to emerge from the shadows of Seattle unscathed. And then finally, one for the Star Wars fans out there, K.O.T.O.R. This is of course a forthcoming remake of the 2003 BioWare game Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. It was first announced at the Sony PlayStation Showcase on September 9th, 2021, and the game will be made by Aspyr Media. Exclusive to the PlayStation 5 console and PC at launch, but it will come to additional consoles at a later date. The game is still in early development at this time and is intended to be a faithful one-to-one remake of the original from the ground up. So if you missed that, this should be a great opportunity to jump back in as and when it releases. So there you have it, that's a list of some of the upcoming RPGs you definitely want to have on your radar. Let us know in the comments down below which ones you're excited for. If you've missed some of our recent videos, you can check out one of these ones on the channel and stay tuned for plenty more.